When we landed in Athens, we did something almost nobody else does. We turned left instead of right. Most people come into Greece and head straight to the islands. Instead, we rented a car and drove to a place that most tourists never even go to. 5 nights later, it was one of my favorite parts of the entire trip. And so today I'm going to show you where we went, whether it was worth it, and exactly how I would plan a first-time trip to the Peloponnese. Hi, I'm Karen, and this is Karen Roams, where I teach you how to travel smarter, spend less, stress less, and experience more. So, where exactly is the Peloponnese? Honestly, before this trip, I couldn't have pointed it out on a map either. It's the large peninsula southwest of Athens, connected by the Corinth Canal. A 4-mile ditch so narrow, some ships legally can't go through it, and one that took the Greeks, the Romans, and about 2,000 years of false starts to actually complete. So if you've ever felt behind on a home renovation, you're actually ahead of the game. Most people don't even consider turning left. I think they're missing out. We picked up a rental car and did exactly that. 2 to 3 hours in, we were winding through mountain villages, relaxing on quiet beaches, and wondering why more people don't come here. A rental car turns this place into somewhere you actually experience instead of just pass through. Some of our favorite memories came from taking random turns, stopping at viewpoints, and exploring villages we never planned on visiting. We grabbed our little mid-size SUV hybrid at the Athens airport since we knew we wanted to drop it off there on our way out, and it avoided the one-way drop-off fees. We named her Sparky because nothing sounds more heroic than a SUV quietly deciding between gas or electric to help save you money when fuel costs $8 a gallon. Sparky did not consent to what we were about to put her through though. And even a mid-size SUV barely fit 5 of us and our luggage. So it's another reason to travel carry-on only. Once you've rented a car, the next question becomes, how much time do you need? We spent 5 nights in the Peloponnese, and I could have stayed a lot longer. If it's your first visit, I would plan at least 5 nights. If you can spare a week, even better. You'll spend less time in a car and more time in each place actually exploring. I would split that time between 2 bases, one in the south and one in the east. It cuts down on driving and helps you experience 2 completely different sides of the Peloponnese. For the southern Peloponnese, decide what kind of vacation you want. If you like larger towns and a beautiful beachfront promenade to stroll, Kalamata might be your place. If you're in search of a smaller town with access to hiking, beaches, and scenic drives, Kardamyli or neighboring Stoupa might be a better fit. And if you're drawn to the rugged Mani Peninsula, Areopoli might fit you just fine. Just know it's not on a beach. For the eastern Peloponnese, Nafplio is where I would recommend. It might be one of the prettiest waterfront towns in Greece. And what really stands out there is the culture and the atmosphere. Every evening, locals and visitors strolled the waterfront for the evening volta, the Greek tradition of an evening stroll, and it felt more lively and cosmopolitan than any other place we visited in the Peloponnese. The biggest mistake most travelers make here is trying to pack too much sightseeing into a vacation. The Greeks literally have a tradition built on slowing down. Maybe they're onto something. It's also a perfect home base to visit Mycenae and Epidavros. We originally had planned 3 nights in Nafplio, but unfortunately our ferry schedule changed, so we had to cancel our last night to get closer to the ferry. But if I had it to do over again, I would add back in that 3rd night. We weren't too sure about visiting the Peloponnese, but it didn't take us long to realize we'd made the right choice. If you're staying in Kardamyli or Stoupa, you'll have lots of hiking and nearby beaches to explore. But the hike to make time for is the hike to Hagia Sophia. You can start by exploring Old Kardamyli. Then follow the cobblestone path past centuries-old tower houses, about 1.5 miles. It's a 650-foot elevation gain and moderately challenging, but the views are worth it. When you're ready to cool off, visit one of the nearby beaches. There's several to choose from, but the ones we went to were Ritsa Beach and Delfina Beach. They each offer a completely different vibe from each other. Ritsa is a quiet, rocky beach that's perfect if you're looking for a relaxing afternoon near the water. Delfina Beach is a small sandy beach lined with lounge chairs and beach bars. The chairs are about €15 a piece to rent, but they're the good kind, sturdy with about 6 inches of padding and an umbrella that can withstand the wind. These loungers were worth every cent. The only drawback is you're there with about 200 of your close personal friends. Leave room in your day to just get lost on the roads in Mani. We tried to reach an old church, but eventually the road deteriorated to what could only be described as a goat trail. And Sparky definitely felt some kind of way about us coaxing her onto that path. We never did make it to that church, but we still drove through rugged countryside, tiny stone villages. Plus, we spotted a jackal, a fox, and a hedgehog while we were out there. And when you need a break from searching out churches on goat trails, stop by Mani Brewing. We had a great mezza plate, lovely beer, and probably the best view I've ever had while sitting at a brewery. Another thing you should do is ask locals for recommendations. We wanted to catch a World Cup game, so at lunch we asked our waiter where in town we should go to catch the match that evening. Since only 2 places in tiny Kardamyli were showing the match, he told us to go to our friend's pizza joint. The food was excellent, and watching the game with locals was one of the highlights of our stay. While Kardamyli is a fantastic place on its own, the real reason to stay here is that the Mani Peninsula is just outside your door. If you have an extra day, I would spend it exploring a region unlike any other I've seen in Greece. The drive itself is part of the experience. Winding through mist-covered mountains, dramatic coastline, tiny stone villages. Just be prepared, the roads get steep, narrow, and winding in some places. You should also definitely stop at Areopoli. We happened to visit when the Saturday market was in full swing. Vendors sold fresh local produce, honey, and we bought some of the best apricots I've ever had. I expected some urban sprawl because it's the biggest town outside of Kalamata in the Mani area, but instead it was a well-preserved old stone city that held on to its roots. And it's a good-sized town with lots of restaurants and shops, but it isn't on the beach. However, there's a beach within 30 minutes in almost any direction you go. Before leaving for Kardamyli, we asked our friend Yannick, who grew up in Mani, what's worth your time when you go? He told us to visit the Pyrus Diru caves if it was hot out, but if we were starved for time, to skip it. We did not end up going, and we didn't feel like we missed anything. From there, you can continue south to Gerolimenas, the lunch stop that turned into an accidental couple hours. It's also the starting point for several hiking trails if you want to stretch your legs before getting back on the road. You can keep following the peninsula till Cape Tenaro, the southernmost point of mainland Greece. We only had time to walk out to the Death Oracle, what the ancient Greeks believed was the entrance to the underworld. Along the way, you'll pass through several fortified hill villages. The one place that I was bummed we didn't have time to make was Monemvasia. Yannick spoke highly of it, so if you can squeeze it into another day, put it on your list before heading to Nafplio. And if Mani is Greece at its wildest, Nafplio is Greece at its most refined. It's 2 hours east, and after several days in the rugged mountains and tiny villages, it's the perfect change of pace. Peloponnese Fortress is a must. There are supposedly 999 steps to the top. At around step 400, my legs lodged a formal complaint, and I ignored them because we're just going to power through. The views over the harbor are incredible, and it's the perfect place to scope out the Bortzi Fortress in the middle of the bay and Arvanitia Beach. We spent the afternoon at Arvanitia Beach, and it was unlike any other beach we had visited in Greece. Instead of sand or gravel, the lounge chairs are set right on the rocks, while the waves crash against the shoreline. It's very dramatic, and there's ladders bolted into the rocks so you can climb in and out of the ocean. But you do need to time it right with the waves if it's a blustery day, otherwise you're going to plant your face into the rocks. We sat there for several hours for drinks, lunch, and just enjoying the sun and the vibes. Nafplio itself was a fun town to wander. We did what the Greeks do and joined the evening volta. You can browse the waterfront, wander through the shops, and find somewhere to eat. If shopping's what you're into, then Nafplio's going to be your jam. We almost never buy clothes on vacation, but the guys ended up finding lightweight linen shirts and shorts that became the unofficial uniform for the trip. After several days of Greek food, we also decided to have crepes for dinner that evening. It was a nice change of pace. Staying in Nafplio also puts you really close to Epidavros and Mycenae. They're each only about 30 minutes away and worth a half-day trip. Epidavros is an ancient theater that's famous for its incredible acoustics. You've probably heard the phrase, "Say it louder for the people in the back." But in Epidavros, you really only have to whisper it. But here's the actual trick. The limestone seats are set at a specific angle that filters out low rumble wind and crowd noise, while it lets the human voice sail all the way to the back row. It's a 2,300-year-old noise filter, and somehow nobody's accomplished it since. Modern concert venues spend millions on acoustic engineering, and the ancient Greeks, well, they just knew how to stack rocks correctly. Mycenae predates classical Greece and helped inspire everything that came after, but much of what we know has been lost. Standing beneath the Lion Gate and exploring massive beehive tombs, it's super easy to imagine how important this ancient civilization was. So who do I think will love the Peloponnese the most? If you love renting a car, taking the scenic route, and discovering places without a bunch of tourists, this is your trip. And if you're hoping to make your own Greece trip as smooth and stress-free as possible, I've got something for you. I've put together a free guide called How to Stop Ruining Your Own Vacation. It's everything I wish someone had told me when I first started traveling. And the habits have helped us do more of what matters, spend less, and stress less. After you've finished watching this video, head on over to KarenRoams.com for your free copy. I think it'll make your next vacation even better. Now, before you start planning your own Peloponnese road trip, here are a few mistakes to avoid. We left Athens about 2 hours later than we had planned on and had to skip Olympia altogether. I suppose those ruins have been sitting there for 2,500 years. They'll probably be there next time I go. But we still had a great lunch in Kalamata, and it was a good reminder that road trips often take longer than Google Maps tells you. And it's because you're going to stop constantly. We planned Limenas as a quick lunch stop and ended up wandering around and spending 2 hours more than we had planned. Give yourself more time than you think you'll need. And if you're planning on doing any time hiking, do it early in the morning. We started the hike to Hagia Sophia too late in the day, and I'm pretty sure Donnie was about 3 steps away from melting into the marble. We're used to hiking with a lot of shade back home in the Pacific Northwest, and we were glad we packed water for once. Get an early start, especially in the summer. Don't underestimate the heat. If you're connecting your Peloponnese road trip with one of the islands, know that ferry schedules can change. Ours moved from a 3 p.m. departure to a 10 a.m., which meant scrambling to rebook our Nafplio hotel for 2 nights instead of 3. In the chaos, I rebooked our hotel for 2 nights instead of 3 at the wrong hotel with the exact same name, about 400 miles away. Fortunately, when we showed up for our non-existent reservation, the lady at the front desk was super nice and helpful. She immediately started calling nearby hotels until she found something for us. It wasn't even her problem to solve, but she treated it like it was. If there was one thing that stood out over and over again in Greece, it was the kindness of the people. Now let's talk about what this road trip is actually going to cost you. Our 10-day rental car, including fuel, cost around $500. We never had to pay for parking. Since there were 5 of us, we booked 2 rooms each night at each spot. Our hotel in Kardamyli ran about $200 a night per room, but I'll tell you that room back in the US would have been $400 a night easy. It was the nicest hotel we stayed in on our trip. It had an incredible breakfast, a beautiful infinity pool looking out over the Aegean. It was spectacular. In Nafplio, our room ended up being about $110 a night, and it didn't have a pool, but the room had a balcony with a harbor view. All in, that averaged about $150 a night per room, or roughly $300 a night for 2 rooms. Most of the ancient sites were between 10 and 20 euro per person for the entrance fee. And if you're planning a beach day, plan anywhere between 5 to 15 euros to rent a lounger. And those are separate from your food and drink bill. Even the food and drinks at the beach bars weren't overly expensive. For our family of 4, we averaged about $300 a day for food and sights, not including our hotel or our car. The 5th person in our trip paid for his whole way. One thing we did notice is that the smaller towns in Greece are noticeably less expensive than Athens when it came to restaurants. Nafplio was comparable to Athens, but places like Kardamyli and Areopoli, we were able to stretch our budgets a little farther. Everyone talks about how expensive Greece has become, but I think they're talking about the islands. The Peloponnese offered some of the best value we experienced in the country. So was visiting the Peloponnese worth it? Not even close. Absolutely. We averaged $150 a night per room. That same room in Santorini would easily run over $250. Before starting this trip, I'd really never even heard of the Peloponnese, but 5 nights later, it was a part of Greece I didn't really want to leave. And it wasn't just the beaches, the mountain villages, or the ancient history. It was the slower pace. We spent our mornings hiking, our afternoons at the beach, our evenings wandering around quiet little towns and enjoying wonderful food. Outside of Nafplio, we were surrounded by Greek families on vacation instead of tour groups. And I think that's what made it feel so special. When we left the Athens airport, we could have done what most tourists do and head straight to the islands. Instead, we chose to turn left. Sometimes the best part of a trip isn't where everyone else is going. It's what happens when you're willing to turn left. If you found this guide helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps me keep making practical guides to help you travel more and spend less. Thanks for watching, Romies. Until next time, go get lost on purpose.